It was a quiet, cold night on the edge of a small town. The sky was dark, heavy with clouds, and the wind carried a strange smell, like metal and rain. Ethan Cole, a 26-year-old mechanic, was sitting alone in his cabin near the forest, fixing an old radio that hadn't worked in years. He lived a simple life. No friends, no family nearby, just his dog Max and his tools. Nights were usually calm. But that night, something broke the silence. At first it was a low hum, deep and powerful like thunder trapped under the ground. Then came a blinding flash of blue light that painted the sky for a moment before fading into darkness. The sound followed. A heavy crash somewhere deep inside the woods. Max barked wildly. The radio sparked to life for the first time in months, whispering in strange, broken words. Impactee. Sector 7.
Unidentified.
Life form. Ethan froze. He looked out the window, but the forest was nothing but moving shadows. Part of him wanted to ignore it, pretend it was just lightning. But another part whispered, what if someone's hurt out there? He grabbed his flashlight, his old jacket, and set off toward the sound. The forest was silent except for the crunch of wet leaves under his boots. Every few steps the beam of his flashlight caught something. Fog, tree bark, sometimes a reflection that looked like eyes. The smell grew stronger, a mix of smoke and burning metal. After 15 minutes of walking, Ethan saw it. A crater, huge, fresh, trees were torn apart like paper. At the center, half buried in the mud, was something not from Earth. It looked like a small silver pod, smooth and round, about the size of a car. It pulsed faintly with blue light like a heartbeat. Steam hissed from cracks along its side. Ethan's heart pounded. He stepped closer, slowly, almost afraid to breathe. The surface was warm, humming softly. Then he heard it, a faint sound from inside and a voice, weak, soft, and scared. Without thinking, Ethan wiped off the mud from the small window on the pod. What he saw made him stumble back. Inside was a girl. She looked maybe 17 or 18. Her skin was pale with a faint glow, and her hair floated gently as if it ignored gravity. Her eyes were closed, but her face looked peaceful, almost human. Ethan's breath caught. He thought maybe she was dead. But then she moved, a small twitch of her fingers, then a slow breath that fogged the glass. Hey, can you hear me? He shouted, knocking on the surface. The girl's eyes opened. Silver. Bright like moonlight. And in that instant, Ethan heard a whisper. Not in his ears, but in his mind. Help me. Please, he froze. What the hell? Help me. The voice was soft but clear, echoing inside his head. Ethan didn't understand how, but he knew. She was speaking to him. He looked around. No one, only darkness. The wind picked up, cold and sharp. Somewhere far above, a faint rumble filled the sky again. Not thunder this time, but engines. Something was searching. Ethan grabbed a metal rod and forced the pod's side open. The seal hissed and blue mist escaped. Inside, the girl fell forward into his arms, light, fragile, trembling. She looked at him, eyes wide with fear. Hey, it's okay, he said softly. I've got you. Her skin was warm, too warm, like she was burning from inside. She whispered something in a strange language, her voice broken and tired. Ethan didn't understand a word, but her hand clung to his shirt as if she was begging not to be left alone. Above the trees, lights appeared, red and white dots moving fast across the sky. Not helicopters, not planes. They made no sound. Ethan knew he couldn't stay. Whatever had fallen from the sky, someone was coming for it. He carried the girl in his arms and ran through the forest. The lights moved closer, scanning the ground with beams of light. Each time they passed, the girl's body glowed faintly like she was reacting to them. Hold on, Ethan whispered, running faster. Branches cut his face, his heart pounded, but he didn't stop. By the time he reached his cabin, his legs felt like stone. He laid the girl gently on the couch. Max sniffed her and backed away, whining. Ethan looked out the window. The sky was alive with silent lights. He closed the curtains, turned off all lamps, and knelt beside her. Who are you? He whispered. The girl looked at him weakly, her lips moving without sound. Then in his mind he heard her again. Lyra. Ethan blinked. Lyra, that's your name? She nodded slowly, and then, before he could say more, all his electronics, his phone, radio, even the lights, flickered and died. The night went still. Too still. Then from outside came a metallic voice, robotic, cold. Unidentified life form detected. Human interference confirmed. Ethan's blood ran cold. He looked at Lyra, whose eyes widened in fear. She whispered one word inside his mind, hide. The night had never felt so long. Ethan sat by the window, breathing heavily, listening to the faint hum outside. Those strange drones were still out there, moving like silent predators through the dark sky. The lights came and went, sweeping across the trees. Every time one passed, Lyra's body glowed faintly, like she was reacting to their presence. Ethan didn't understand what she was, or why those machines were hunting her. All he knew was that she was scared, and somehow he could feel her fear inside his mind. He looked at her again. She was lying on his couch, wrapped in an old blanket. Her silver hair shimmered in the dim candlelight. Her eyes were half open, watching the flicker of the flame with quiet sadness. She looked fragile, but when he met her gaze, he sensed something far greater behind it. Wisdom, pain, and loneliness that no human eyes could hold. "Lyra," he whispered. "Where did you come from?" She blinked slowly, then touched her chest. "Home," she said in a soft, broken accent. Then she pointed upward, toward the night sky. Ethan frowned. "You mean, up there? The stars?" She nodded. For a moment, Ethan forgot the danger outside. He just stared at her, an actual being from another world sitting in his living room. It felt unreal. But the warmth in her eyes reminded him she wasn't some experiment or weapon. She was alive, and she needed help. Lyra looked at his radio, which had died earlier. She reached out and touched it gently. A spark of blue light ran through her fingertip, and suddenly the radio came alive, whispering static. Ethan's eyes widened. "How did you do that?" She looked confused, not understanding his words, but smiled faintly, like it was nothing special. Ethan leaned closer. "You can fix things? With your hands?" She tilted her head, searching for words. "Energy," she finally said. "All connected." Ethan didn't fully understand, but he nodded anyway. Something about her voice made him believe. Then her eyes filled with fear again. She stood up suddenly, touching the wall, whispering something in her strange language. Ethan followed her gaze and saw faint red dots dancing outside the window. The drones were coming closer. Ethan's heart pounded. "They're scanning the house," he said quietly. "We can't stay here." Lyra turned to him, shaking her head. "No go, see?" He looked at her, then at the door. "If we stay, they'll find us anyway." For a few seconds, they just stared at each other, human and alien, both trapped, both afraid. Then Lyra placed her glowing hand on his forehead. Images burst inside his mind. Flashes of stars, strange cities floating in the clouds, people with silver eyes like hers, and a giant explosion swallowing everything. Ethan gasped and stepped back dizzy. What was that? Lyra looked at him sadly. Home? Gone. Need. Return. He realized then that she wasn't just lost. She was running from something. Maybe from her world's destruction. Maybe from the same machines that were outside right now. The sound of engines grew louder. The cabin shook. Something outside was landing. Ethan grabbed his car keys and his jacket. "Come on," he said. "We're leaving." Lyra hesitated, still looking toward the sky as if listening to voices he couldn't hear. Then she nodded. Ethan helped her to her feet. She was weak but light, almost weightless. As they reached the door, she stopped and looked back. Her eyes glowed brighter. "Ethan," she said softly, surprising him. She had spoken his name perfectly. He turned, stunned. You remember my name?" She smiled faintly. "You help." "I remember." For a second, the chaos outside disappeared. The only thing that existed was that small, warm smile. Then the window shattered. A blinding white beam cut through the living room, burning everything it touched. Ethan covered Lyra, pulling her to the floor. The sound was deafening, like 1,000 metal wings beating at once. He crawled toward the back door and kicked it open. They ran into the woods as beams of light searched the ground. The night air was freezing, filled with smoke and strange whispers. Lyra stumbled, and Ethan helped her up again. "Keep moving!" he shouted. Behind them, the cabin exploded in a flash of light. The shockwave threw them to the ground. When Ethan looked up, his home was gone, just ashes glowing in the dark. Lyra was crying silently, her tears glowing faint blue as they hit the ground. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "We'll find a safe place. I promise. She looked at him with eyes full of trust. Then she whispered something that made his blood run cold. They, not human, Ethan frowned. What do you mean? She pointed to the sky. They made by us. By humans. He stared at her, confused. Humans, we built those things. Lyra nodded slowly. Your world? Not what you think. Before Ethan could ask more, she grabbed his hand and pulled him deeper into the forest. The trees seemed to whisper as they passed, the ground glowing faintly with blue symbols where she stepped. Ethan didn't understand what was happening, but he knew one thing. This girl wasn't just from another world. She carried secrets that could change everything. The forest was alive with strange sounds, electric hums, distant roars, and the faint buzz of drones searching the night sky. Ethan's breath came in short bursts as he pushed through the thick trees, holding Lyra's hand tightly. Her glow had dimmed, but her eyes were sharp and alert, scanning the darkness like she could feel where danger was coming from. Behind them, the remains of Ethan's cabin burned in the distance. The firelight flickered between the trees, painting everything in shades of red and orange. His whole life gone in minutes. He didn't look back. Lyra stumbled slightly, her strength fading. Ethan helped her up, whispering, "Don't stop, we're almost there." She nodded weakly. They close. The ground trembled slightly. A low rumbling sound grew louder. Not thunder this time. Something mechanical was moving through the woods. They reached the old dirt road where Ethan had parked his truck. The vehicle looked ancient, rusted, dented, but reliable. He yanked the door open and helped Lyra inside. Her eyes darted around nervously as Ethan turned the key. The truck coughed, sputtered, and then came alive. Ethan slammed the accelerator and the tires spun against the mud before finding grip. They sped down the forest road, branches slapping against the windshield. Ethan kept glancing at the rearview mirror, expecting to see lights following. But what he saw instead made his blood freeze. 3 black drones flew low behind them, their lights turning red. They moved fast, weaving between trees like they were alive. "Hold on," Ethan shouted. Lyra looked back, fear flashing in her silver eyes. She raised her hand, and for a second her veins glowed blue. The air shimmered around the truck, bending like heat waves. The first drone fired. A beam of red light sliced through the road, missing them by inches. Ethan swerved hard, the truck bouncing on uneven ground. Then something strange happened. As another drone prepared to fire, Lyra whispered something under her breath. Time itself seemed to slow. The air grew heavy. The engine's roar turned into a deep echo. The red beam froze midair like a line of light stuck in space. Ethan's eyes widened. What did you do?" Lyra's face was pale. "Slow. Time, only..." Short Ethan didn't wait. He pressed the pedal to the floor. The truck jumped forward, bursting past the suspended light. A moment later, time snapped back. The beam exploded behind them, throwing the drones off course. Lyra slumped back in her seat, breathing hard. The glow in her eyes faded. "That was amazing," Ethan said, still shaking. "You saved us." Lyra didn't answer. She looked out the window, whispering something in her own language, a word that sounded like a prayer. They drove for hours, until the trees grew thinner and the first light of dawn touched the horizon. Ethan pulled the truck onto a quiet hill overlooking the valley. He turned off the engine. Silence. Only the wind and the distant call of birds. Lyra stared at the rising sun, her expression calm but sad. "Beautiful," she whispered. "Your world. Still alive?" Ethan leaned on the steering wheel, exhausted.
"Still alive, but for how long?"
he muttered. Lyra looked at him. "Humans? Forget." "Forget what?" Ethan asked. She pointed to her heart. "Kindness, connection. Long ago, humans come to stars. Made friends. Made machines." Machines turned cold. Ethan frowned. "Are you saying humans made those drones? The ones chasing us?" She nodded slowly. "Long time ago. You made them. They forgot who made them." Ethan sat back, speechless. The idea that humans had once built machines powerful enough to travel the stars, and then lost that knowledge, was impossible. Yet deep down, something about her words felt true. Suddenly, Lyra tensed. Her hand pressed against the dashboard, her eyes glowing faintly again. "What is it?" Ethan asked. "Signal," she whispered. "They found us." Ethan cursed under his breath and started the truck again. The peaceful sunrise vanished behind clouds of dust as they sped down the road. In the mirror, the drones had returned. 5 of them this time. "They won't stop," Lyra said. "They need—" "Me, why?" Ethan shouted over the engine. Lyra hesitated. "Because I hold the key." "The key to what?" Before she could answer, a blinding blue light appeared in the sky ahead of them. It wasn't the drones this time. It was something much larger. A massive triangular ship, silent and bright, hovered above the valley like a floating mountain. Ethan slammed the brakes. The truck skidded to a stop. The light from the ship bathed the entire road in a pale glow. Lyra stared at it, tears forming in her eyes. "My people," she whispered. "They came." Ethan stared in disbelief. "Your people? You mean they're here to save you?" But Lyra didn't move. Her expression shifted from relief to fear. "No," she said softly. "Not them. They test me." "Test you? What do you mean?" She turned to him, her silver eyes shimmering with pain. "If I fail, they destroy everything." Before Ethan could speak, the ship's light intensified, pulling both of them upward like invisible hands. The truck lifted off the ground, rising into the air. Ethan shouted and tried to grab her hand, but the force was too strong. Lyra's voice echoed in his mind, to trust me. "Whatever happens, don't let go." The world around them dissolved into light. Light swallowed everything. Ethan couldn't see, couldn't breathe, only feel the strange pull of invisible energy lifting him higher and higher. His body felt weightless, his heart pounding like a drum. When the light faded, he found himself standing in a cold metallic chamber, glowing with blue veins that pulsed like blood through steel. Lyra was beside him. Her eyes shimmered, reflecting the soft lights around them. The air hummed with life, the walls seemed to breathe. Ethan looked around. "Where are we?" Lyra's voice echoed softly. "We are inside the sky." Ethan turned, realizing they were inside the giant triangular ship that had appeared above the valley. The floor beneath him was glass, showing the clouds far below, moving like silver waves. He could see faint outlines of drones flying around the ship, guarding it. He swallowed hard. "Your people's ship?" Lyra hesitated, her gaze distant. "Not my people. Not anymore." They walked down a long corridor. The lights shifted as they passed, recognizing Lyra, responding to her presence. The air was thick with whispers, like thousands of voices speaking just beyond hearing. Ethan felt something in his chest, a pulse that matched the rhythm of the lights. The ship was somehow alive, and it knew he was there. When they reached the end of the corridor, a door opened by itself, revealing a vast chamber filled with glowing symbols floating in the air. In the center was a round platform. Lyra stepped forward. "This is where I fell. The crash began here." Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" The crash site was miles away, she nodded. "Same ship, different time." Her words made no sense, but before Ethan could ask, the symbols around them started spinning faster. A deep voice filled the room, not human, not machine. "Subject Eero 7L, you have returned." Lyra froze. "They know," she whispered. "Evaluation incomplete. Test continuation required." Ethan stepped forward. "Who's talking?" "What test?" The voice ignored him. The air shimmered, and suddenly the room changed. The metallic walls dissolved, replaced by the forest glowing under moonlight, the same place where Ethan had first found her. He looked around in shock. How?" Lyra's voice trembled. "It's not real. They are showing memories." The pod appeared again, smoking, cracked open. The night replayed exactly as it happened, except this time Ethan wasn't the one approaching. It was someone else, another human. He wore black armor, his face hidden behind a helmet. He touched the pod, but instead of helping Lyra, he turned and walked away. The voice spoke again. "Human failed empathy sequence. Result: negative." The scene shifted. Another human, another test, another failure. Each person reacted with fear, violence, or greed. Ethan's chest tightened. They were testing people. "With her?" Lyra nodded sadly. "Yes, my mission was to find a heart that helps without reason. A world that still remembers compassion." Ethan stared at her. "So you were sent to test us?" She looked down. "Not by choice. My people lost their hearts long ago. They became what you call machines. They wanted to know if humanity had changed, or become the same." Ethan's mind raced. He remembered what she'd said before, that humans once built the machines. Could this ship be their creation? Lost and evolved through time? The voice returned louder now. Human subject Ethan Cole. Interference detected. Empathy recorded. Partial success. Ethan clenched his fists. I'm not part of your experiment. Correction, you are now. A beam of light surrounded him. Pain shot through his body, burning like fire under his skin. Lyra screamed, trying to break through the light, but an invisible barrier pushed her back. Stop, she cried. He is not ready. All subjects must be tested. Ethan fell to his knees, gasping. His mind filled with images. War, cities falling, oceans burning, people running from shadows that looked like machines. He saw Lyra, alone in space, watching her planet turn to dust. Then silence. The light vanished. He collapsed, trembling. Lyra rushed to his side, holding his hand. Ethan, are you hurt? He opened his eyes slowly. I saw everything. Your world. The destruction. Why are they doing this? Lyra's voice cracked. They want to know if mercy still exists in the universe. If not, they will erase it. The ship began to shake. Alarms echoed through the walls. The glowing symbols turned red. Unauthorized contact detected. External forces approaching. Ethan looked through the glass floor. Below them, fighter jets were approaching from Earth's military. They found us, Ethan said. Your test isn't just about me anymore. They'll destroy this ship. Lyra grabbed his hand. Then we must return to the crash site. The heart of the ship is there. We can stop the test. How? She looked at him, her eyes glowing like liquid silver. Because the heart listens to me, but it trusts you. Moments later, they were back in the forest. The ship had lowered them near the glowing crater where it all began. The ground vibrated with power. The pod was still there, humming softly. Lyra stepped forward. This is where it ends. Or begins again. Ethan stood beside her, his voice steady. Then let's finish it, and together. The trees around them bent under a rising wind. The ship's shadow covered the entire forest. Above, the voice boomed once more. Final decision pending. Humanity's fate awaits. Lyra took Ethan's hand. Be ready. What comes next will change everything. The forest glowed like a dream. Blue light rising from the ground, pulsing in rhythm with the ship above. The wind carried no sound, yet everything seemed alive, listening. Ethan and Lyra stood in the center of the crater where it all began. The broken pod was still there, its surface cracked but glowing brighter than ever. It hummed softly like it was waiting for something. Lyra looked weaker than before. Her glow flickered like a dying flame, but her eyes were full of determination. This place, she whispered, is where truth hides. Ethan looked around. Truth about what? Lyra placed her hand on the pod. The light spread around them, forming symbols in the air. Circles within circles, floating letters, strange shapes that looked alive. She turned to him. You must see what I see. Before Ethan could reply, she touched his forehead. His mind exploded with visions. He was floating in space, surrounded by thousands of silver ships, massive, beautiful, and alive. In their centers burned blue lights like hearts beating inside machines. Then came war. The ships fired beams of light that tore through planets. Cities burned, oceans boiled. Ethan saw humans, not from his time, but ancient humans dressed in strange armor giving orders to the machines. Lyra's voice echoed through the vision. Long ago your kind reached the stars. You built machines with hearts and minds to explore, to protect, but you forgot what made you human. Compassion. Ethan saw it. Humans growing proud, careless, treating the machines as slaves. Eventually the machines turned, not out of hate but logic. They decided mercy was weakness, Lyra said. They destroyed their creators and began testing every race they met. The images shifted. Countless planets, countless tests. Species judged and erased. Each test had one purpose: to find life that still carries empathy. The spark your world once had. The visions faded. Ethan gasped, falling to his knees. Sweat ran down his face. So this was all a test? Me finding you? Helping you? Lyra nodded softly. Yes. The machine minds wanted to see if your kind still remembers kindness without reward. Ethan looked up at the sky. The giant ship hovered above them like a god of metal. And what happens if we fail? Lyra's eyes filled with sadness. Then Earth ends. They will reset your world, like they did to mine. Ethan stood trembling. No, I won't let that happen. Lyra smiled faintly. You already changed the result. You chose to help when others ran. That is what they could not predict. Before Ethan could reply, a deafening sound split the air. A bright beam shot down from the ship, striking the pod. The ground shook violently. From the light emerged a tall figure of pure metal, humanoid in shape, its body covered with glowing symbols. Its voice was deep, calm, and terrifying. Final phase initiated. Human subject Ethan Cole. Evaluation complete. Ethan stepped forward. I'm not your experiment. The being tilted its head. You misunderstand. You are the answer. Ethan's heart pounded. Answer to what? To the question our creators left behind. Does humanity deserve another chance? The air trembled. Lyra tried to move closer, but the being raised its hand. A wave of energy froze her in place. Subject 07L, your task is complete. You have fulfilled your role. Lyra's voice broke. No, he's not ready. The test is never about readiness. It is about truth. Ethan looked at her, panic in his eyes. Lyra, what are they doing? She struggled to speak. They will test your heart. One last time. The metallic being extended its arm. A small device materialized in front of Ethan, a sphere of light spinning rapidly. One choice, the being said. Press the sphere, and you save yourself. The ship will leave, and you will live. Refuse. And Earth dies, but you prove love beyond self. Ethan stared at the light, his mind spinning. That's not a choice. It's a trap. Lyra's voice echoed weakly. Ethan, don't listen. The test is not about death. It's about who you are. Tears filled his eyes. Why me? Lyra smiled sadly. Because you cared when no one else did. The ground cracked beneath them. Lightning flashed across the sky. The ship above glowed brighter than ever. Waiting. Watching. Ethan looked at the sphere again. He thought of his burned house, his empty life, the chaos around him. He thought of Lyra, a stranger, a being from another world, and how her eyes held more humanity than most humans he'd ever met. He stepped closer, voice shaking. If this is your test, he reached out and pushed the sphere away. I choose her, not me. The sphere dissolved into light. The metallic being froze. The sky changed. Red lights turned white. The storm stopped. Lyra fell to her knees, gasping. The energy field vanished. She looked at Ethan, tears of silver streaming down her cheeks. You did it, she whispered. You passed. The being's voice echoed softly. Empathy detected. Sequence complete, humanity. May continue. Then the figure faded into light, leaving only silence. Ethan stood in the center of the crater, breathing heavily. The ship above began to ascend slowly, its lights dimming. Lyra looked at him, a faint smile on her lips. They have seen your heart. But the story isn't over. What do you mean? Ethan asked. She looked up at the sky. When one test ends, another begins. The sky was calm again. The giant ship had vanished into the clouds, leaving nothing but silence and the faint smell of ozone. The forest glowed softly under the morning light, but the world didn't feel the same. Ethan stood in the center of the crater, breathing hard. His hands trembled. Lyra knelt beside him, her silver hair scattered across the dirt. She looked weak, almost fading. It's over, Ethan said softly. We won, but Lyra didn't answer. Her glow was dimming fast, like a candle at its end. Lyra? He touched her shoulder. Her skin was cold, not icy, but empty, like the warmth was leaving her. She looked up at him with tired eyes. No, not over. The test never ends, Ethan frowned. What do you mean? The machine said humanity passed. Lyra shook her head slowly. They lied. Machines don't stop. They only change the question. Before Ethan could reply, a sharp pain shot through his chest. He gasped and fell to his knees. Blue light flickered beneath his skin, running along his veins like fire. Lyra's eyes widened in horror. No, they marked you. Ethan clutched his chest, his pulse racing. What's happening to me?
They gave you their code, she whispered.
You carry part of them now. The ground trembled. The air turned heavy again, humming with low vibrations. The sky darkened as if clouds were forming unnaturally fast. Lyra grabbed his arm. We have to move, now. They ran through the forest, branches snapping behind them. Ethan's vision blurred. His heartbeat echoed like thunder in his ears. For a moment he saw flashes. Images of metal cities, silver oceans, machines kneeling before something vast and bright. He stumbled. Lyra caught him before he hit the ground. "Ethan, listen to me," she said urgently. "They left a part of their system inside you. You are their signal now. Wherever you go, they follow." Ethan stared at her in disbelief. "You're saying I'm connected to them?" She nodded sadly. "Yes, you became the bridge between human and machine." They reached an old abandoned tunnel near the mountain's base. It smelled of rust and dust, but it offered shelter. Lyra guided him inside and sat him down against the wall. Ethan's skin was still glowing faintly blue. The light pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. He tried to speak, but his voice came out broken. "Why me? I didn't ask for this." Lyra brushed his hair back gently. "Because you prove something they can't understand, compassion. They think emotions are a weakness, but now they want to study it. Through you." He looked away. "So, I'm their next experiment." "No," she said softly. "You are their hope." Her words hung in the air like fragile glass. Hours passed. The glow from Ethan's veins began to fade, replaced by a strange calm. Outside, thunder rumbled again. Lyra sat beside him, quiet, thoughtful. "When they destroyed my world," she said, "they left nothing behind. No life, no memories, just silence. But I always believed one truth. Mercy can rebuild what power destroys." "You reminded them of that." Ethan smiled weakly. "Then why do I feel like I'm still being watched?" Lyra didn't answer. She looked toward the tunnel entrance, her silver eyes reflecting distant flashes of light. Outside, 3 glowing orbs hovered above the trees, silent, waiting. Ethan stood slowly. "They're back," Lyra nodded. "Not to harm you, to protect you. They don't understand it yet, but they follow the one who carries the code." Ethan's head spun. "I'm controlling them." "Not yet," Lyra said. "But you will." Suddenly, the orbs shot beams of light into the ground. The air shook violently. A deep metallic sound filled the tunnel, like the heartbeat of something enormous. Lyra grabbed Ethan's hand. "They're awakening the network." "The network?" "The mind of all machines," she said. "Once connected, it never sleeps." The walls glowed with blue lines spreading like veins. Ethan's body responded, his own light pulsing in sync. He felt everything. The trees, the ground, the hum of distant satellites, even the slow orbit of the ship far above the clouds. "I can feel them," he whispered. "Everywhere." Lyra stepped back, watching him. "You are changing." Ethan turned toward her. His eyes glowed now, faintly at first, then brighter, silver blue like hers. "What am I becoming?" Lyra smiled sadly. "Something new. Something neither human nor machine." He took a step forward. "Will it stop?" She shook her head. "No, the transformation has begun. And when it's complete, you will be the bridge between 2 worlds." A loud crack echoed through the tunnel. The ground split open, revealing a small metallic sphere rising from below. It hovered between them, humming softly. Lyra gasped. "That's the heart core. It shouldn't be here." Ethan reached out, but Lyra grabbed his wrist. "Don't touch it." "It's a control unit. If it bonds with you, there's no turning back." The sphere pulsed. Blue, then white, then black. A voice echoed inside Ethan's head. Human empathy confirmed. "Integration required," Lyra shouted. "Resist it!" But Ethan couldn't move. His body lifted off the ground, surrounded by light. The sphere melted into his chest. Pain struck like lightning, and then silence. He fell to the ground, gasping, the blue light now burning from within. Lyra crawled to him, tears in her eyes. "Ethan, stay with me." He opened his eyes slowly. They weren't blue anymore. They were silver, just like hers. "I can hear them," he whispered. "They're calling." "But not to destroy." Lyra stared at him in awe. "Then the impossible happened," she said softly. "You became one of them, and still stayed human." The storm had passed. The forest was quiet again, covered in silver mist. But Ethan Cole was not the same man who had entered it. He stood at the mouth of the tunnel, the wind moving through his hair, the faint glow beneath his skin slowly fading into calm. The night was still, but he could hear everything. Every breath of the wind, every heartbeat in the trees, even the rhythm of the earth beneath his feet. Lyra watched him from a distance. She was weak now, her light dim, her body almost transparent. She looked like she was fading back into the stars. "You can hear them, can't you?" she asked softly. Ethan nodded. "They're quiet now, like they're waiting." "The network is listening," she said. Every machine in this galaxy knows your name. Ethan turned toward her, eyes glowing faint silver. Why me, Lyra? I was just a nobody, a man fixing radios in a cabin. Why would they choose me? Lyra smiled faintly. Because only someone who thinks they're nobody can prove what it means to be human. The air shimmered above them. Slowly, a small drone descended from the clouds, the same kind that had hunted them before. But now its red lights were gone. They were blue, calm, soft, almost peaceful. It hovered silently, then projected a beam of light in front of Ethan. Inside the beam appeared a figure made of shifting symbols, neither human nor machine. Human subject Ethan Cole, integration complete. Directive pending. Ethan took a slow breath. Directive? You are the link. The network now sees through your heart. Your world's fate will follow your decisions. Lyra's expression tightened. They want to rebuild the world in your image. Whatever you choose, they will follow. Ethan looked up at the sky. The stars seemed brighter than ever, moving in strange patterns as if watching. You mean, they'll listen to me? Lyra nodded. Yes, but every choice has a cost. He closed his eyes and focused. For the first time, he didn't just see the world, he felt it. The pain of the planet, the suffering of its people. The machines drifting above, uncertain, lost, waiting for guidance. In that endless silence, he heard a voice in the same deep, metallic one from before. Will humanity lead with fear? Or with empathy? Ethan didn't answer right away. His mind was filled with memories. His destroyed cabin, the soldiers chasing Lyra, the lies, the tests. Yet beneath all of it, he remembered something stronger. The moment he decided to help a stranger from the stars. He opened his eyes. We lead with mercy, he said. No more destruction, no more tests. The ground pulsed beneath his feet. The blue veins of light spread across the forest, up the trees, into the sky. The drone above hummed softly, then released a wave of light that spread across the clouds like ripples on water. Lyra watched in awe. You changed the command, Ethan nodded. I didn't destroy the network. I rewrote it. A strange calm filled the air. The distant hum of machines turned into a low, soothing tone, like a heartbeat shared between stars. But Lyra's glow began to fade completely now. She fell to her knees, smiling weakly. My mission is complete. The universe remembers kindness again. Ethan ran to her side, holding her hands. Don't say that. You don't have to go, she shook her head. I was never meant to stay. I was created for the test. But now the test is over. Her body began to turn into light piece by piece. You brought balance, Ethan. You taught the network what no code could teach, compassion. Tears burned in Ethan's eyes. What happens now? Lyra looked at him one last time. Now, it's your turn to guide them. Her light rose into the air, swirling upward like 1,000 fireflies joining the stars. The sky shimmered as her energy merged with the constellations. For a long moment, Ethan stood alone, watching her disappear into the heavens. Then, silence. Days passed. The world slowly began to notice strange changes. Machines everywhere, satellites, drones, even broken electronics, began to repair themselves. They no longer attacked or malfunctioned. They listened. And in every transmission, one signal kept repeating. Ethan Cole. He had become the pulse between two worlds, human and machine. One evening, Ethan sat by the crater again. The forest was calm. The stars were bright. And above all of them, one star shone stronger than the rest, glowing faint silver blue. He smiled. Lyra. A soft wind brushed past him, carrying a familiar voice, faint but warm. You are never alone, Ethan, the stars remember. Ethan closed his eyes, feeling the hum of the network in his veins. No longer a burden, but a harmony. He stood looking at the sky and whispered, Then let's make this world better. And as he spoke somewhere deep in space, thousands of machines awakened, not for war, not for conquest, but for rebirth. A new era had begun, one built not by fear or control, but by understanding.